householders to London, and then the rest was history. They met the Beatles, and much more. There's so many things happened. I actually read Shamasundar Prabhu's book, Chasing Rhinos, the 3 volumes. I couldn't put them down, and so your name came up quite a bit in those books. And Gurudas Prabhu's quite the legend, actually, in our ISKCON circle. So it's really a pleasure. Thank you so much for somehow by Krishna's arrangement. I think Bhakti Marg Maharaj had something to play with this also, right? He was trying to make sure that we have this opportunity to have these devotees come and we could serve them by hearing from them a little bit. And so we're very excited that you're here with us, and we're looking forward to any nectar drops that you're willing to share with us. And Gurudas Prabhu will be here with us for the next 3 days. So today we have a program 6:30. Tomorrow 6:30 as well at the temple, and then there will be one at a house program as well. So if you're here today, you have some friends that maybe missed out today, but maybe want to come tomorrow. There's a chance to come again tomorrow and on Wednesday to take part. So thank you very much. So I'll try to. Okay, work on that.
We all are here because of Prabhupada. We wouldn't know each other. Objectively, scientifically, we wouldn't be in this room. In an oasis and positive alternative to the world that's somewhat crazy. So I'm very happy to be here. You deserve it. So now you deserve it. You see, we have to love ourselves. Sometimes the tendency is to be humble artificially, and Prabhupada didn't encourage that. Because he gave us the basis, dasana das. It's amazing that this goes on in the world, in Krishna circles. Can I warm your milk up? I don't get that at home as much. Because we were riding on the train near Kurukshetra, and he said if they watered this area, there could be more farmland. And then we passed Kurukshetra, and then he said, if I call you Prabhu and you think you're master, that's not the meaning. The meaning is that we serve one another, and the save the world. And so we, as a community, have to support each other. I want your success and you want my success. And as we were talking in the car, that if you chase the rhino, if you're bold for Krishna, people will, even if everybody will, at least they tried. And then Prabhupada said, if you do it together, no one is. We're a team here for Krishna. So there's no I in team, there's we in team. And you young folks are the future of the world. So you're learning what the world is like, and I encourage you to follow your heart, follow your dreams. Real bhakti is doing the talents that Krishna gave you, not something you don't want to do, because it's natural. You learn the rules and regulations in the beginning, it becomes part of you, and then Prabhupada said the spontaneous Krishna consciousness happens. And that's the adventure of not only learning yourself, but giving it to others, preaching, giving it to others. And so there's 3 S's. Shastra, which gives us a foundation, and then our sadhana, our practice, and seva. And the seva is a good part of it, because it gives us purpose in life, and everybody wants that. So now, in the 3 days, 3 evenings, I'm going to be telling you the story that you so nicely prefaced. I'm a legend in my own mind. Huh? He laughs at the right places. We drove together. He gets my subtle jokes. So good. If I become a stand-up comedian, you're in the front row then. Well, see, that's the thing. Prabhupada had a great sense of humor, and that was one of our rasas. And that's why he literally took me every place, just the 2 of us, to the Vice President of India, to Lalit Prasad, to the signing of the Juhu property. And just the 2 of us were walking. We were on a football field. In America they call it soccer. And I said, just me and him in Gorakhpur, and I said, Prabhupada, did you play sports? And he said, yes, I was captain of the debating team. Well, I laughed too. Then I heard that he also played football, soccer, as a goalie. Have you heard that? I don't know if it's true, but that would be it, because he is like that. He would be protecting the goal, and everybody else would be running around. And he said, lazy intelligence. He said, we don't want to cajole and trick people into becoming devotees, because there's something easily learned is easily forgotten, something learned hard is hard. We want them to come in their choice, that we want them to question the Guru, we want them to question. That's another thing, question things, don't be afraid to question. Thomas Edison, thousands of to get the filament for the light bulb, he was curious, and after thousands, he finally got it. So we persevere. But now I'm going to, three nights is good, because there's 3 segments of this story. There's the Swamiji, and then there's the Prabhupada, and then there's the Jagat Guru General. And I don't know your full story, but we're going to get to know one another. But I think that you experienced the early days when we were austere and building and a family and eager to please Prabhupada, but they're very austere. And so I'm going to actually explain that. So, as you said, now I'm going to begin. That was like the introduction. Okay. Like you said, it was the 1960s. And it was a magic time in the world. At the same time as Lord Chaitanya's success, in Italy, the Italian Renaissance was happening. So at certain times there's a timeline across the world where there's ages of hope. And there's decades of me and we. And so this was one of the we decades in the 60s. And the young people, like myself, were not satisfied with the world. We wanted to know more about who we are, and we wanted, I myself learned and practiced many spiritualities, from Native American shamanism and some Zen Buddhism and Judaism and so we were searching, but it was such a hedonistic, do you know what it means, a pleasurable age. There was free everything. Free love, and free drugs. When I did that search, by Krishna's grace, I met all the mentors. So this man, Timothy Leary, who was LSD, he wrote a book about how to do it. It wasn't just get high. There was a way, and he taught me personally. And it includes gurus, somebody who's already experienced it. And then Native American peyotes, and so I had all the mentors, and I was having a real good time, but I was like a hamster on the samsara wheel. I was like, oh yeah, and I'm going to that, I'm having fun, but there's no purpose in my life, but And then I met the Swami. But I've posed this question, why would I want to follow a 71-year-old man that was telling me not to have fun anymore? But he was so expert, he spoon-fed us. He identified why later. He said, I've given you the Vedic culture, something tangible. And so that's it. I wanted purpose in my life. Before I was a devotee, I was part of the civil rights movement, based on Gandhi's peace, nonviolence. And I was beaten up and put in jail. I helped plan the March to Washington. I went to the March to Washington with Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. But movements change, including our movement, but that's another thing. But two really nice college professors, one Howard Zinn is famous, told me, you should get out of this political atmosphere because you're too creative. And I had a talk with Bob Dylan that we could reach more people with story and song than political rhetoric, because it reaches the heart rather than people resisting. So Swamiji was able to do that. So there's going to be, the Swamiji section is how we met Prabhupada, and I was blessed. I was blessed with a wonderful wife named Jamuna. And we were already girlfriend, boyfriend. It wasn't arranged, which is healthy. It was healthy. And so, in a relationship, it's really good if you have the same ethics and the same interests. The personalities could be different. That's compliments. She's a bull, Taurus the bull. So, so the point is that we already knew each other and loved each other, and how we met is a really interesting story. It's in my book. We met because of a Black Panther, but we met the Beatles because of the Hells Angels. So Krishna works in a strange and mysterious way. It's a great adventure if you let it be Navayovana, let it be Navayovana, let it be fresh. We were talking about how to give it to other people. Just listen, find out the common ground. You don't stuff the philosophy down somebody's throat at first, you give them prasadam. And that's what he did. So Joan went to her sister's wedding, Janaki. Is there a time limit thing? Oh, good. Sitting around the campfire. So Joan went to Janaki's wedding in New York. Mukunda was a jazz musician. And the Swami was living with them. And Jamuna as some of you probably know, is an incredible cook. I don't know if you've seen her cookbook, but she did research in India. She'd go to this place or that place because she heard they had a different spice, or they had a different way of cutting vegetables. So she was cooking with the Swami. He was teaching her how to cook prasadam, and she touched herself, and the Swami said, you know, when we cook for Krishna, we don't touch ourselves. Go wash your hands. Okay. An hour later, she said, Swamiji, can I go smoke a cigarette? Go wash your hands. A little later, she takes the ladle and she puts it and she tastes it. And the Swamiji says, you know, when we cook for Krishna, we don't taste. 99.99% of the people who cook in the world taste it. And then he said, go wash your hands. She thought it was the first mantra. Go wash your hands. But then she came raving back to San Francisco. Oh, I met this Swami and he's so charming. And so he was coming to San Francisco. In those days, the hippie days, it was very colorful, so we painted our cars. So there was an artist, Haridas, who's borrowed his father's Cadillac, and Cadillac is like a very high-ended car, like Rolls Royce or so his father really didn't appreciate that we put the Hare Krishna mantra on the side of the car. It became the Krishna-lac, not the Cadillac. And so the Swami's coming, the Swami's coming. We had just heard about him, and so we went to the airport. And this whole array of painted cars, Thormobiles, Batmobiles, Krishnamobiles, and us in costumes for whatever our spirituality was. There was African dashikas and people with feathers in their hair. And Jamuna made me a samurai costume, kind of a thing. And Mukunda had a paisley gown on, one piece. And Samarashinda had an Afghani shepherd's, and it smelled like sheep. So we're all going out to see the Swami in the airport. And everybody gets off the plane and there's no Swami. Because anybody who travels, after the plane stops, everybody gets up and stands in the aisle, and a smart traveler just sits and lets them go and then goes. So everybody came, and then suddenly resplendent comes this golden, shining, looking into Vaikuntha. It seems like his feet are not touching the ground like Yudhisthira's chariot, looking up and looking royal. And a lot of people have become devotees just by looking at Prabhupada. Have you heard that? Daniel? So, I mean, that's just one of the aspects. He glowed and he looked different, and I wrote a Vyas Puja of all the qualities of Krishna and how Prabhupada emulated, I think it's 56 that someone could have. Not the same qualities, but not the same quantity. Do you know that concept? I gotta tell you this story because otherwise I'll forget to. And you'll see I'm going all over the place in the stream of consciousness, but actually Krishna's, I'm just an instrument. But so now later, we're in a conference in Amritsar. It was a Mayavadi gathering, but we were invited. I'll tell more about it later, but basically, Giriraj and I made sure that everybody had a place to sleep, and we had a camp, but there was not enough room, so Giriraj and I slept and went in the middle of the Mayavadis. Well, very soon as I lay down, this person said, "I'm God, you're God, we're all God. We're all one." So that's the impersonalist idea. Well, you know that's part of the sun rays, the sun planet, the sun God, Vivus One, and the sun rays. So yes, that's a partial thing, but it's not quite as good as impersonalism. But people are taught that. So he said, the spark and the spark and the fire are the same. The spark and fire. And I said, well, you can't cook a meal with a spark. Meaning with the same quality, but not the quantity. So he said, you don't understand. Here's this blanket and here's this thread. They're the same. Chaitra Guru, surgeon. This thread. And it was cold. So 10 minutes later, give me my blanket. So I said, well, you said the thread and the blanket are the same, so it's not really a practical application. And I said, if you want your blanket, you have to go before my Guru Maharaj and bow down. So he's coming. So then he enters the airport, and we saw that he was just walking in a purposeful way, not in a hurry. And he came in, and with these golden lotus hands, he took some kartals out and he wrapped them, not in a hurry. He was so present. He's 100% present in our life. And he sits down, and all these costumed people, as I was saying, sit before him, and he sung so beautifully in a honey, gravelly voice. And then people were gathering around. And just as the airport officials were going to come to stop, he stopped, so they had nothing to complain. And then we took him in the Krishna Lak to show him our storefront temple, which we had just got painted everything days before he came. And this is one of the phenomena over the years. I remember shellacking a table in Vrindavan and fanning it dry 30 seconds before he came in. I mean, you probably experienced a lot of challenges and things we had to overcome, and sometimes having to rush, and sometimes not having enough people to do deity worship or whatever. So we went in a caravan and we had an apartment above the storefront temple. We didn't get to see him very much at first because he was writing. And I don't know if you've read many spiritual books, but there's a classic thing where the disciple is waiting at the gate for a while before they're able to actually meet their spiritual master. I don't know if you've, but in many of the spiritual books, it's a phenomenon. So the Swamiji was upstairs, and Mukunda was like his liaison, but he was writing with Hayagriva and Ray Rama from New York, and we got to see him 3 times a week, but it wasn't long, it was long kirtans. Now I'm going to set the scene. We just take for granted this beauty. But compared to this, it was nothing. No mridungas, no kartals, no movement, no books, no deities, no Prabhus. Would you rather have Krishna or the army? So we had the Swamiji. Anyways, from the ground up, this was built. And he was on top of the mountain, seeing us crawling up, and he knew everything. But he had to spoon feed us. And like Krishna satisfying 16,108 gopis at the rasa dance, each one thought they had a special relationship. Each cowherd boy, when Brahma stole them, the meal even was replicated. So that's what he saw in each one of our hearts. He encouraged us to do our talents. I was a photographer. I got my new photo book I want to share with you. Actually, some of these, yeah, take it out because I can show some of these photos. Thank you. So then, but still, we were getting a taste, long kirtans, but then he would talk, but you know, we didn't have any Chaitanya prayers. Yeah, thank you. We could,
Table?
yeah, but I guess I have to have it to show you the pages.
I can bring another table.
Okay, that's really good. And look at the beauty of the back cover. Can you see he's holding the plant? So he told me on John Lennon's estate, study nature, it's one of the highest manifestations of Krishna on the planet. He's teaching me all these adages all the time. with adages. Art means full belly. Art means full belly. People who are surviving, we were looking at some art in Basana at the temple. People who are surviving can't have the luxury to look at art, and people who are starving can't have the luxury of Krishna consciousness. So feed them. But slowly we got a chance to meet him more, especially me. Because I was photographer, he called me in one day and said that a person in India wanted to know about Pentax cameras. So could I give him the prices, find the prices? So then I found out, and once my foot was in the door, I found an excuse to just go every day. And he'd have this smile like we hadn't seen each other for 2 years. And the phenomena, if you had a list of what you'd want from an Indian Swami, because we thought everything from India, oh, this Kirtan is spiritual. But he was charming, he was compassionate, he was witty, but he was also the most strict, open-minded individual I ever met. Simultaneously, he was ready for adventure. Time, place, and circumstance. Sometimes you might have to bend a rule according to, let's say somebody's attacking your house or something. There's a story of a great spiritual leader. Everybody was waiting for him, and he didn't show up, and there was also lots of rituals, and he was the elder, and everybody, and where is he? Oh, he's helping a pregnant woman who was in need because her husband went to see the spiritual leader and left her. So the lesson is, sometimes, according to time, place, and circumstance, you have to do what's ever needed for survival in Krishna consciousness in the world. There'll be a few, I'm going to tell you a story about this soon. So the Swamiji was giving, and now I got to see him, and he asked me to do a photo for the frontispiece of the Bhagavad Gita. But he just welcomed me so much. Well, in every office or movement, there's one person who likes to be the rule enforcer more than others. They're usually politically correct. I think a good bumper sticker would be, unimaginative administrators squash creativity. So, Jivananda's wife, Harsha Rani, even her name says harsh. I'll jump ahead because it's part of the story, but I had an invisible grove that nobody knew about, but Yamuna did, and she pops in there and she proposed marriage to me in the most unimaginative, unromantic proposal of all time. Harsha Rani says if you live together, you got to get married. Oh. and then we did. I'll tell that a little bit later. But so Harsharani later, I'm sitting with the Swami, and he gets up, and there's pakoras, and you can smell them from the kitchen right there. And he goes in, and he had a way of eating without touching his mouth. On the way to Montreal, we had a jar of gulab jamans, and we were trying to imitate it. They would bounce off us. We couldn't do it like the Swami. Did you ever see that in Ark? Amazing. So he takes a pakora and he does that, and Harsharani says, "You can't do that." His answer was he took another one. Oof. And as he did, he got more like a little child. And she said, "When we cook for Krishna, we don't taste." And he said, "Who has given you these rules?" And she said, "You have." He said, "Then I can break them." See, he was like a child too. We're sitting in a Bukhara, across from Bukhara in Calcutta. It's a bathing ghat. And I go into the room, and he's sitting on the floor. We had a cushion for him. And he said, "I have fooled them, Gurudas." And I said, "Who?" And he says, "The mosquitoes." And he was sitting, he actually did it in one of the morning lectures. He got off the Vyasa and sat on the floor in Calcutta, because the same thing, I fooled them. But he said, when I sit on the floor, they rise. So I was like a child before Prabhupada. I'd ask some strange questions. Like, can we wear Lord Nrsimha masks on Harinam? I actually asked him that. So I was like a child, and I said, "Are there mosquitoes in Krishna Loka?" And he said, "Yes, but they don't bite, they sing." So here's this poetry and wisdom spewing from his being. And so he was spoon-feeding us Krishna consciousness, and then he would speak. He's slowly teaching us the basics of Krishna consciousness. Well, he used to sit on the altar, and there was a totem pole. Like here in Canada, you probably have a lot of indigenous, maybe Inuit, and they have totem poles, which is the history of their tradition. And right to the right of Prabhupada's altar was the totem pole. And there was a picture of Lord Jesus in the temple too. So this was Prabhupada, so open-minded, and there was no mridanga, so he sat on the altar and playing a bongo drum, boom, 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 and leading kirtans, long but beautiful. There was small people with big kettle drums and trumpets and violins and guitars, and for a long time. So there was a store on Hayes Street that had a Krishna in the window. So I would go there and say, "Can we please have Krishna for our temple?" We were part of the neighborhood, the whole community, because we were feeding people. And a lot of people were doing a lot of drug trips, and they'd come to the Krishna temple for breakfast and kirtan. So we were part of the community. So I went into the store, can I have Krishna? One day they said, he wasn't in the window anymore, so I went in the back, can I have Krishna? And they said, for $35. Well, we didn't have any money. We had one sari and one dhoti in the whole movement. Hayagriva didn't like it when we tied his dhoti together to a sari. Give me my dhoti back. Well, we have to have it for 7 days, probably. So there's a thing called Chaitra Guru, which means intuition. It means intelligence from Krishna, that we use it. And so this was an instant where I went out in the street and said, my father's in jail. Can I have some money to get him out? My father's in jail. Money came. My best friend is in jail. He's blue. Well, actually, Shamshinda, but anyway. And money came. My kid, my child is in jail. Because sometimes the Ras is that, and I had it with Prabhupada too. Sometimes he became our child. Let me put his sweater on or whatever. So then I got Kartamashi, the little captain, and brought him, fed him, and that's right. So this I don't know if it was so some Swamiji was very pleased because we were building this Krishna consciousness, and anything to please him, and he was accessible that we could actually ask him things. So if any of you are going to be getting gurus, and you have to have a guru that's accessible. There's some of my guru friends that have thousands of disciples, but I can't necessarily say do that because I want you to have the same privilege that I had with Prabhupada. So now he was so humble that he'd sit on the floor, and it wasn't a big schism between men and women. It was like daughters and sons. Because a lot of these photos, you'll see us sitting on one side, and it was terrible that Jamuna and I were sitting at his feet, and then somebody complained, oh, it doesn't look good. That's how movements, they change from the early beginning, and she was devastated. Because he was pressured by that. Oh, seeing that. So now, because he was so humble, he got off the altar and told us about the Paramparasas and the Vyasa-san. So Samashunda built him a Vyasa-san, and he's sitting on it, and having kirtan, and the first night, and then we hear a banging on the wall, boom, boom, after the kirtan. And he calls me over and says, Gurudas, what is that? Well, I want to know, why did he call me? By that time we had all these, we had a lot of devotees. I was the 7th disciple, but now we had a lot. What is that, Gurudas? I'll go see. But I knew that next door was called the God's Eye Peace ice cream parlor, but it was with an Irish philanthropy charity group that fed people, and we were feeding people, so we were good neighbors. But the motorcycle gang that beat up people was there. They were called the Hells Angels. So now I knew, well, the Hells Angels is there. That's why the banging's on the wall. And they were notorious for beating people up and doing. At the Mantra Rock dance, I got them to be our security, because then they couldn't beat themselves up. But see, in the material world, then they did it as a vocation, and then there's a thing called Altamont where they murdered people. Anyways, but it was a good idea. So I go next door, and this real tall guy opens the door, and he's missing some teeth. He had a swastika etched into his cheek. This doesn't look too good. I had my bead bag, but he had a stiletto knife, you know, and a big motorcycle right there. And so now, these days, I would say something like, well, could you party less hardy? But I don't remember what I said, but I was saying, well, the Swami's there and he's going to speak, and he was wondering what the banging was, and possibly you couldn't bang. Anyway, what the banging was, and he says, well, I was banging on the wall, man, because of your music. Well, there's a jazz term, knock yourself out, but I didn't say that. So he said, your Swami's deep and the heaviest. And later I told King Kisi that one of the translations for Guru was heavy, and then he said, heavy. So they expected, because of the other Swamis were cultivating rich people and things like that. He was amongst the hippies and feeding people and jolly. And so then he did that. He was quiet, and then we had kirtan again. The next week, we had kirtan, and Swami's on the Vyasasan, and there's a really great devotee named Govindadasi. She's still serving in many great ways, and she was an artist with her husband Gursunder, and so she had paintings on the wall, and so at this point our temple was very, very popular. The East Indian community came, the ambassador came, other people came, the hippies came. At the love feast, we called it love feast, not Sunday feast. Where did that come from? Sunday feast, love feast, love feast. We had two talks going out the door to the street. And Jamuna and Malati and everybody cooks so nicely. The Swami taught us. But Jayananda and the brahmacharis, Madhavisa Maharaj told me the story that Jamuna would make plates. First, before the Sunday feast, a lot of devotees take off completely. Sometimes it was like an insane asylum, new people coming and the devotees spacing out. And I said, greet people at the door, at any rate. So there's two, and they're wondering, trying to smell what's in the pots. The brahmacharis, this is one of their gratifications, what to speak of everything else, Krishna's mercy. And then Jamuna opens the pot and makes individual plates, and she was feeding the people out in the street first, so the brahmacharis had to pass these plates. So the next week they go out in the street, and what do you think Jamuna did? She fed the people in the front first. So he's sitting on the Vyasa, and Govindadasi's father was from a place called Texas. And Texas is a place in the United States which was the largest state. That was before Alaska. And they were rich because of raping the earth with oil. So they thought they were very arrogant and thought they were better than people. They had big ranches. So Govindadasi's father was from Texas, and he goes right up to the Vyasa with Swamiji sitting there. And he said, "Why does my daughter have to have an Indian name?" At that point, the Gujarati Patels go up to the Vyasa to hear the wisdom of the Swamiji. And so Govindadasi's father is going like that. He's surrounded. He's not used to like India where we could put 100 more people if it was in India, 200 probably. But he wasn't used to that, and he's going like that. And to make it worse, there was a light bouncing off the gold tooth of the elder Patel's tooth, and like a strobe light, it was going into his eye. That did not help the situation. Blink, point. So he's going like this. So Prabhupada's very clever. He says, he felt like General Custer surrounded by the Indians, he's going, and Prabhupada said, "You do not like Indians?" "Well, I like Indians all right, but why does my daughter have to have an Indian name?" And I saw Prabhupada disarm so many parents. If she's happy, why do you object? And at that point, Mrs. Govindadasi led him back to his place. So then, Jamuna proposed to me, and so we asked Swamiji, "Can we get married?" And he said, "Well, you have to get initiated first." Surrender. A born-again Christian shows up where I was living and tried to convince me to not become a devotee. But he was so obnoxious that he pushed me closer. Why would I join those people? My way's the only way. So, but I was not sure, and we weren't living together then. But then I called the temple, said, "Yes, I'm going to do it." And we didn't have tulsi beads, we had big colored beads back then. See, we didn't have anything like that, so some people did multicolored ones. It seemed red was what we did. So we had these big red beads. So next to, in our initiation was Shama Devi, Hayagriva's wife, a really nice devotee. But see, we didn't know anything. So Janaki didn't use real wood for the fire. She used fruit box wood, wood that's smushed together, and oleomargarine, not real ghee, so the fire sputtered. And there were a lot of people on something called mescaline, and they loved the phenomena of the fire in the storefront. Ooh. In England, we did it at a concert, and the fire brigade took the fire out, and I said, "This guy just broke his guitar, and you're pulling the fire out, and what's he talking about?" At any rate, that's later on. To me, that was like a sin. He just broke his guitar and you're pulling the fire. At any rate, at the Roundhouse in England. See, we did bold things for Krishna. Who would think of building a fire in a concert? So there it was, the fire yajna, and we asked him, when should we get initiated? And he said, tomorrow. He didn't want my chanchala mind, which was happening, to fester. So now we got initiated. So when do you want us to get married? Tomorrow. Well, the same thing, oleomargarine and fruit box wood. And there was a girl who wanted to marry the Swami. Well, we were considering how to get his green card, and that was one of the things, if the Swami marries her. But then he had to say, no, I'm a sannyasi. He had to see, he was making barbarians into Brahmins. We didn't know anything. But not only that, this girl's had a baby at our marriage, and her baby's head was hitting the ground, boom, boom, and we were all looking like that. And the Swamiji's head's into Vaikuntha, but then he saw it and he says, pick up baby. Well, she's what we call the space cadet, but she was a mother, and she, oh yeah, I'll pick up. And then the Swamiji says, we'll be strong baby. And actually, here's a picture of her at Vishnu John's. And it's funny, there's another picture of us at the airport, and she's leaving us. I don't know where she is now, but so now I had an, oh yeah, and at the initiation, most people have a name that's the same letter as their legal name. Is that with you? Well, most everyone did, and he gave me an R name, but I was still conflictive about the whole thing, the marriage and initiation. Do I want to do this? And then he said, no, your name is Gurudas. And everybody, including the mescaline guy, said, ah. So that was very appropriate, because as we got to know each other, it was so amazing, but it's not always fun. It was like the fire, and I did get chastised a few times, but it was mostly really wonderful. That why did he pick me to go on television? Why did he pick me to pull Radhanath out of a crowd? And I think because I let him set the agenda. I didn't have my own agenda. Like people who would give him watches because he's take the watch off and give it. But if they were doing it with that thing in mind, he wouldn't give him a watch. You know. Anytime I tried to fabricate any smidgen of the untruth, he busted me. On a walk in London, I liked Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings because it was epic and poetic and Victorian language, and Swami Prabhupada's books were instructive, and so in some ways I liked Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and we were on a walk, just the two of us, and I said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is my second favorite author, and he said, second? I said, yeah, no, you're right again. It's because his writing's epic and Victorian, and yours is very instructive. In some ways, I like his first. And he said, if I had 1/10 of the of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I would be a great devotee. I don't know what the word was that he wanted. But the real miracle was that as we walked on, there was a rat in a garbage can. And he took his cane and put the garbage can down so the rat could get free. And one day, on John Lennon's estate, I came in, and he said, I've been thinking of you, Gurudas. And there was a butterfly in the room, and he put his finger out, and the butterfly got on the finger. And I had my camera, but I didn't want to spoil the mood because of the loud click. I should have done it. It would have been a great photo with Prabhupada with the butterfly. But the real miracle was that after the butterfly got off his finger, he said, open the window so that butterfly can get something to eat. So he's teaching us everything. And one day he says, now he lived in a different place. And he said it's Lord Chaitanya's appearance day, and I want you all to go into the temple and chant japa, chant kirtan, and here's a manuscript of the Chaitanya Chaitamrita, and read it, and fast. But as a kindly father, he gave me and Mukunda some rock candy. He said, if you can't fast, then you can have that. So he was like our kindly father. We never met somebody so kind. And that's what really charmed us. He was so kind in our midst, always giving, 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 and taking very little. Giving, giving. So who would not want to be around someone like that? And then all the adventures, you know. So we said, go into the temple. So we go in there, and we chanting, and there's a wonderful devotee, Jayananda Thakur. And he's pretty famous. You've heard of him, Jayananda? Great devotee, selfless person, man of the people, hard worker. Gave Prabhupada $5,000. Didn't think he was scholarly, but he was on my Radha Damodar bus. He was very intelligent. So, and there's another devotee, Jivananda, who's now in Glastonbury, England, and he had a cafe with King Arthur's river running through it. And now he's got a shop called Portal. Any rate, stranger than fiction, the world, you know. So, and so they go like this to me. What? They said, let's go out. Well, I said, the Swamiji said that we should stay in the temple the whole day. They said, no, we have an idea. We're going to go and sing for the Swamiji. Well, Jivananda, Jayananda, two Anandas are better than one Das. So I said, okay. And we go there, and he's on the second floor, and he comes to the window, and he's glowing, and we're chanting. And then he goes like this. And I said, I told you, Anandas, he's telling us to go back into the temple. He told us to stay there. No one's been chastised yet, except for Malati. I'll tell that story. And so we're going back to the temple down the hill, and Upendra comes running down and says, the Swamiji wants to see you. Well, it was like, oh no, now that we have to go to the principal of the school, because we did, I don't know how many people have experienced that, but I did one time for lighting off a homemade stink bomb in class. Don't do this at home, folks. And so now we're going to the principal, and he has this huge oceanic smile. This is Prabhupada's hat, by the way. Oceanic smile. Lord Chaitanya has given you the intelligence to chant inside and now outside the temple. This is called Harinam, and I want you to do this every day in the streets. And so this was the origin of Harinam. So then, we thought everything from India was holy and special. And so then Malati, there was this import store, and she saw something that looked like it was from India. And in America, we didn't have much money, so she, what we call a 5-finger discount. The 5-finger discount is, you steal it. And this is after he chastised her. I have to back up a little bit. Malati was really good at getting things. Jerry Garcia gave us a stove for chapatis because of her. She was good at getting things. So one day this truck that was delivering milk goods to a store nearby, the man went in the store and Malati, this truck was open, and Malati stole a whole wooden plaque of butter. And she comes in the temple like that, and we put all the butter in there, and a little later, Malati, the Swami wants to see you, so she puts the one sari on in the movement. And she goes up there, and he says, because he was above the temple, and he liked Charlie Chaplin movies, so he knew mine, so he could tell, oh, there's Malati taking the thing. This, it wasn't rocket science, she could tell. And so you have stolen the butter. Well, she felt like a piece of molten protoplasmic melting butter herself. We should not steal. It's other people's property, it's Krishna's property. We should treat other people's property like stool. We should not steal. But if you have to steal, steal butter. because Krishna is called Makinchu. So he instructed us and he forgave us. Constant. He forgave us. But she didn't learn, so she stole the... And she brings this thing from India, and she said, Swamiji, is this from India? And suddenly Swamiji's bowing down, and he said, you brought Lord Jagannath, God, to me. And he said, I shall tell you the story, which he did later. But he said, are there any others? And she said, yeah, I think there's a yellow and a white. Go get them. So now it's the 10-finger discount. And then Samashinda, can you carve these? So Samashinda was able to carve Lord Jagannath, smoking a cigarette. After the kirtan, we'd go out like a theater production and smoke cigarettes with our dogs and cats in the beginning. Later on, Swamiji told us it's intoxicant, but when Swamiji went to speed it up, there was a cigarette there, and he took his cane and went whap. So, don't let this get in your way of Krishna consciousness. But see, the addictions would go away because we had an alternative. And sometimes unwanted things from the past would enter me and then go out. And I asked Swamiji, what is that, unwanted? He said it's the purification process. So we were feeling purified by the holy name and the prasadam and the lifestyle, and it's so exotic. Peacocks and Radha and Krishna and the Eastern European devotees. I asked them, why did you join Krishna? Well, some of it because of the exoticness of it, the beauty, the sense. But some, most because of the philosophy. And some because they were out of totalitarian regimes. So yes, so then he introduced, here's one of our first love feasts, and what the temple looked like. So the first Rath Yatra, here's Gurudas and Jamuna's wedding. I didn't take it, there weren't selfies back then. Now here, see the person who helped me with the book, first of all, its neck shouldn't be in the photo, but you can't see it. But we're going out on home. And I'm not wearing any shoes. I'm not wearing any shoes. Here was our music group, one of them. Then Vishnu John came, but this is Malati and the Dancing Gopis. So we would go to Republican parties and Democratic parties, and there was a guy who was a Satanist and had a lion, and we did a thing with his thing. So this, the quality isn't too good, but you can see how crowded the love feasts, how popular. So one day, someone decided, well, wouldn't it be a good idea to take Lord Jagannath for a walk to Hippie Hill where we chant? And so, I forget who it was, but he took Lord Jagannath off the altar and took him to where we chanted in the park. And suddenly the Swami's running with me in tow. And then he gets there and says, Lord Jagannath comes out of the temple only once a year. I shall tell you the story. But then he said, well, as long as we're here, we might as well chant. And so this shows how open-minded. Instead of chastising us, which he really could have, he sat down and chanted. So, the first year, here we are going out on Harinam. Yeah, but there's another picture when we really did it. Actually, I think here. Here's what our Harinam looked like after Swamiji told us how to do it. And it's also, you can see Vishnu, John, and Jamuna chanting together. Could you imagine? 2 stars in the galaxy of stars. So then, the first Rath Yatra car was just a truck, from the people next door. And you can see we did an altar on the truck. And there's Hayagriva and Devananda on the truck. And then Samasunda is building it. When I was living in Mexico, there was a dog. Someone painted my portrait, and the payment was 10 pesos and a puppy. And another dog was getting beaten up in an embassy, so me and a boxer from Costa Rica climbed over the fence and got that dog. So it ended up, I hitchhiked with 2 dogs and 2 girls from Mexico to New York. Well, the girls would go out and hitchhike, and me and the dogs were behind the bush. So when, oh, girls, they stopped, and then we'd come out, oh, he's, all right, okay, come on. So, there's a picture of the dog named K Tal. In Spanish it means what's happening. So there's a picture of K Tal in the truck with Sam Mashinta. So, those were the days. So the second year, it just went on the street and everything like that. The second year, look how many people are there. And as a photographer, I had to run up the hill and do this, and it was an art, because I'm photographing, and at the same time, Swamiji's asking me to serve him, so I'm giving him water and photographing it. It was an art, but a nice art. And then look.
Third year?
So this was our team in San Francisco. And we were a family, and we're building and not arguing and loving one another. And as I say, this is important, that we love one another and support one another. And then this picture, I don't know if you can see it, but suddenly the Swamiji had a heart attack. And we were devastated. And we chanted so hard, and he went to a beach house and recuperated, but he wanted to go back to Vrindavan, perhaps to leave the planet. And so this picture is one of him looking at, you can't see it so well, but he's looking with a mood of separation of our San Francisco temple and all of us. And similarly, we had the Vipalamba mood of separation, is we may never see the Swami again. And what would we do? I mean, he's just building now, and we're just learning, and then suddenly but then he got better. And came back. And so then, because we were successful, he wanted something in London. Because, as you mentioned, the 3 top sannyasis from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati were sent because London had an interaction with the British Raj, for one thing. There was like a love-hate relationship in a sense. But it was also the central hub of the world, as Swamiji said. And what he told me was really nice, that he wanted to put the culture of the East together with the dynamics of the West. And that's what he did. This is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It's so nice. You can go to temple and hear different languages and so, yeah, we came to Montreal. The girls went ahead, Malati and Jamuna and Janaki, and we had a whole jar of gulab jamans, as I said. And when we got to we were trying to imitate the Swami. When we got to the border, they actually took the gulab jamans out to analyze it because they thought it might be LSD or something. Well, it's TLC, tender loving care. Here's us at the airport with the girl who wanted to marry Prabhupada ahead of us all. And I have no idea where she is today. She didn't say, but here she is. Okay, we're at the airport, and Janaki says, she took his ticket. She took his ticket and said, I'm not going to let you go. And so then, this is a whole series, and then in a later book I have the whole series, but he's comforting her and laughing, and she said, I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to take your ticket. And he says, but they have my name in the airship. And then she was like frustrated. that, oh, and he was smiling. He was smiling that she wanted to take his ticket and not let him go. She had a real special relationship with Prabhupada. Very bold. But so did Jamuna. Look at Jamuna and Prabhupada at the airport. They were so close. And look at Prabhupada at the airport. A great acharya, but look how just humble. So now we're going to Montreal, and it was really nice. It was a bowling alley with blankets separating our rooms, and again it was family. And it was Janmashtami time, and I had all the photos of Krishna, and he gave us those sacred threads. And the next day was Vyasa Puja. And my theory is, and most of the time people look at me like I'm from Mars, but I'll say it again, that Prabhupada stayed in the womb so he wouldn't take attention away from Krishna, and then he came out the next day. So the next day was Vyasa Puja, and I had all the photos, and the man says, I don't think they should bow down to you. And he said, as you think they should not bow down to me, they are thinking you should bow down to me, and this is a democracy and majority rules. And then I asked him like a child, can we wear Lord Nrsimha masks on Sankirtan? And here's a picture of the Charles Chaplin story he told to support this strange idea that what great men do, others would follow. It's in the Bhagavad Gita. And he said, Charles Chaplin was at a ball dance, and somebody put glue on his tailing coats, and they ripped. And then this is Victorian language. Then they went into the private room, and he ripped his tailing coats all the way to the neck, and he went out on the dancing floor, and Prabhupada's imitating Charles Chaplin dancing. And then other people saw it, and they ripped up their tailing coats because they thought it was the new style. So, yes, if you wear Lord Nrsimha mask, you can do that. Because what great men do, others will follow. So now he called us to London, and our only plan is we've got to meet the Beatles. And so I'll conclude this first section tonight, but without the belief system, who would think that we could even think of that? We were infused with Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada said enthusiasm is the backbone of Krishna consciousness. So keep your enthusiasm ever fresh, and tomorrow we'll be in London. Of course, if there's any questions, comments, anything, please. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the nice class. My question is, the day that you went for Harinam the first time, when Prabhupada was calling you like this, which festival was that?
It was Lord Chaitanya's appearance day, yeah. Harinam and book distribution is a good way to learn about Krishna consciousness. Your ego is suppressed, and you have to find ways to communicate with people. But you also have to realize that no service is better than another. The temple president has inclination for manager, but the cook is just as important. It's linear. Das anu das. There's no small service. Any more questions?
We have a tradition that in the mornings we do kind of like a Bhagavatam class, get together and which tomorrow our Bhagavatam is a little bit earlier because we have grahastas, a lot of families that go to work, right? So it's at around 6 a.m. in the morning, between 6 or 7. Would you care to maybe continue to join us?
Someone asked me, I'd like to do the day after,
Okay.
and I need the text.
Text, okay.
I can give you.
On the Lakshmi Muni.
I'll give it. We're eating lunch together. We're
Sorry?
eating lunch together tomorrow. I'll give it to you then.
Yes, we are.
Thank you so much. So I
When,
think
when did you join and where?
69 Buffalo.
69.
In
Wow,
Buffalo.
that's early. And where?
Buffalo, New York.
With Rupanuga, huh?
With the and Jagadish and Borjan and Trivigram and Philadananda.
Were you going to school?
I was in UB.
And what was your major?
Psychology.
Me too.
I got my last 16 credits in studying Krishna consciousness.
That's really good. No, because I do something called pastoral counseling, which means combining Krishna consciousness with the models, the Western models from Gestalt to Freud, to Jung, to transactional. There's different models. So you use what's specifically resonating with the person you're talking to, but you bring Krishna consciousness into it. So
It was at UB when Prabhupada came there. Timothy Leary came there, Prabhupada came there, Balaram Das came there, and the Hog Farm, all 4 of them. It was a spiritual week at the university.
So did you go out on Harinam in Buffalo?
Yeah, we went in Harinam quite a bit, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, many stories from there. I remember the first flight to the moon, you know, they said they went to the moon.
Right.
And they had reporters out on the street. They stopped me. I was in front of Hangar's department store distributing back to Godheads. And they said, now we've gone to the moon. What do you think about that? And I said, you already made a mess of the earth. Now you're going to go to the moon.
Right.
Make a mess there.
No, actually, that's true. The astronauts, the Americans said, here's a pen called Space Pen. It cost $300 billion to invent it. And the astronauts said, well, here's a pencil. It costs 2 cents and it could also. But there was a Native American tribe called the Dene. And Dene means people, just like Lakota means friend and Sioux means enemy. So again, the white man subjugated and changed. So now they said, we're going to have a time capsule going to the moon. And so they put an Elvis Presley record in there. But the Dene were the Navajo code talkers in World War II, was able to send messages that the Germans could not interpret because it was the Dene language. So they were the code talkers. So now they said to the chief, you put something into the time capsule. So he put a little note. And when it get to the moon, it said, be careful of these guys, they'll take your land too.
thank you very much, Gurudas Prabhu. We're looking forward to the continuation. I guess the meeting of the Beatles and the trip to London is coming next. You left us with a cliffhanger. So we look
Keep them
forward.
wanting, there's theater, they say, keep them wanting more.
Yes. So tomorrow again we're going to be back here at 6:30, the temple, and we have a little bit for those who want to take some prasadam with them. We have some takeout for some rice and some sabji. If you'd like to take it, we'll bring a couple of pots and some plates. Feel free to do so, and then we'll just get ready to depart for the evening. And then tomorrow, well, we still have our morning programs here, but 6:30 in the evening, and then Bhagavatam class with Gurudas Prabhu on following it.
Maruta's going to go class tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Switch.
Awesome. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much.